Over the years, I've used Turo as the foundation for building my wealth, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about how. But before we dive in, I do want to remind you guys that I do have a course called the Car Sharing Masterclass, and it teaches you how to start and scale a car sharing fleet with the exact same business model that I use. If you want to check it out, you can use the code OFFER100 to get $100 off. The link is down in the description below. There's over 7 hours of course content. You get access to our private Discord, our monthly Zoom calls, and we have a ton of content planned for 2025, which is something I am extremely excited about. If you want to check it out, you can do so by clicking the link down in the description below, and you can use the code OFFER100 to get $100 off. Now, before we dive in, I do want to preface by saying that what I'm going to be talking about in this video is what I personally did. I don't think that this is the best way to go about doing it. I certainly don't think it is the only way. I'm just talking about what I did and what I found worked for me and my husband. But over the years, I've spoken to a lot of small business owners and Turo hosts who have trouble transitioning their business from being a side hustle into a full-fledged business, and how to navigate the process of paying yourself, when, how to invest in other things, and so on. So I thought that if I made this video, maybe it would give you some ideas and it would help someone out there. First, for anyone who may not be familiar with me, my channel, or my story, I'm a Turo host with 30 cars on the Turo platform. My niche on Turo is economical cars, and over the years, I've accumulated a fleet of cheaper basic cars, though I do have a few nice ones sprinkled in. I started Turo back in 2017. At the time, I was in my early 20s. I was in a relationship with my then boyfriend, now husband, and I've been diving into Turo headfirst ever since. My oldest car in my fleet is a 2007 Toyota Yaris, while the newest is a 2020 Honda Odyssey, and all of my cars with the exception of the Odyssey are fully paid off. And today we have our 30 cars, 2 rental properties, and an investment portfolio in the low 7 figures. So let's talk about how and what I did in order to reach this. First, and I already know that this is going to be a contentious one, but that is to limit your Turo debt. Now, I grew my Turo fleet essentially debt-free. I cash flowed cars, and the very first car I bought for Turo was actually my personal car at the time, which was a 2011 Jeep Wrangler Sahara. And I grew my fleet from there by using cash I was able to save up through side gigs, as well as the cash that my Turo cars were generating. But I believe that my low to no debt model with Turo was absolutely crucial to my overall success, because it made it so that my profit margins were very, very high right from the get-go. Now, I will admit that when I joined Turo, it was a different time than today, and while buying cars for $3,000 is very possible today, in fact, I've done it a few times in recent years and just did it recently in the last couple of weeks, it is harder to find dirt cheap quality cars than it was in 2017 when I joined the Turo platform. That's why instead of saying that you should simply avoid debt altogether, I'm instead encouraging you to be very cautious around it. Do not finance a bunch of brand new cars. Do not finance 100% of your fleet. When you finance a car, use some cash flow to pay off the car earlier, unless it's an insanely low interest rate. The fact is, paid off cars are higher margin, and the more money that you can put back into your pocket, the faster you can invest that into other things. If you have 2 hosts, one that either co-hosts or has loans associated with their cars, versus another host who owns all of their cars outright, the host who owns their cars outright is able to make as much profit as the other host with a fraction of the cars. This then gives that host more flexibility to hire employees, to invest in other resources. It just gives them more cash to work with overall less work. Another major factor for my financial success has oddly enough not been relying on Turo for 100% of my income. I am a Turo host, Turo content creator, and I sell a Turo course. And yet, you will never hear me tell you to rely on Turo for 100% of your personal income. And for me, I've personally been diversifying since day one. When I started Turo, I was working part-time in consulting, I freelanced, and I did Turo. Today, I have a corporate job in marketing, I make content on social media, I have Turo, real estate, and a bunch of other avenues for cash. Never in my going on 8 years of being a Turo host have I ever relied on Turo for all of my income, and truthfully, I never will. And while doing this has sure made it so that I no doubt have grown my fleet slower than I probably would have had I invested 100% of everything I made and did back into the Turo fleet, I am a smaller host compared to other hosts that have been around since 2017. But I also feel incredibly confident in saying that I'm also in an extremely good financial position as a result of this diversification. Remember that more cars doesn't always equal more money, and it doesn't mean that you're moving the dial in the right direction with your personal wealth. On the same topic is I did not quit my day job, and I still haven't. Now, my day job is sort of a weird and unique scenario, but this is a scenario that I've been putting a lot of thought into lately. If you watch my older videos, you'll hear me mention this job over and over again, and this was a job that I felt very fortunate to have because it was a job I liked, it paid well, but most importantly, it allowed me the flexibility to do other things like YouTube and Turo. I always told myself that this job with this flexibility was a dime a dozen, and once the job ran its course, I wouldn't be able to find another that was similar to it. Well, this past summer in 2020, 2024, I switched jobs to a different job with a different company, different industry, more than twice the pay, and just as much flexibility. And no, neither of these two jobs hired me because of my social media presence. I hear a lot of people talk about, oh, I would love to grow Turo, but my 9 to 5 is holding me back. Or I would love to do Turo, but I just can't find the time. And I think that people oftentimes assume that I've been able to find the success that I've had with Turo and with YouTube because I didn't have a 9 to 5 job at the time that I started these things. But that really couldn't be further from the case. I'm a really big believer that if you want something bad enough, you'll figure a way to make it work, whether it mean managing your Turo fleet outside of your 9 to 5, figuring out how to do it before and after work, or alternatively, I also believe that if you're good enough, an employer will figure out a way to make it work to where they can keep you. I think that this is much more common with very small companies. In my case, both companies I worked for were very small, but you can absolutely make it work if holding a 9 to 5 and doing a side hustle like Turo is important to you. If you can figure out a way to thrive in your career while also managing your Turo fleet, you can put yourself in a position to be able to continue working your job, make money from Turo, and then have a ton of money to invest into other ventures or more cars, which is exactly what I did. And I do credit having a stable job and stable income, not only for how I was able to get started and grow my Turo fleet with 100% cash, but also with why I've been able to diversify so effectively over the last few years. I think the world of entrepreneurship gives W-2 jobs and being an employee a bad name, and while I don't think I'm going to be an employee forever and there will be a time where I decide to scale back my workload, I will forever be grateful for the resources having a W-2 job gave me, and I think when it comes to growing your wealth, a W-2 job is a slept-on tool. While having a W-2 job paired with a lucrative side hustle, well, that can be a true superpower. Another super important aspect of my personal financial situation has been two key things. Number one is lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep, and the other thing is setting and forgetting all of my personal savings and investing. First, let's talk about lifestyle inflation. I am super fortunate to have a spouse who has the same financial outlook as I do, and we both very much are on the same page on our financial goals, and part of that comes down to how much we spend. I'm extremely cautious of my spending, and I'm even more cautious on how my spending and what I want to buy creeps up as I've made more money. Lifestyle inflation is very real, and letting that lifestyle inflation creep up can be a killer. Now, don't get me wrong, we absolutely don't live the same life today as we did in our early 20s when we were broke, but we also spend, at least I'd like to think, much more consciously than I think a lot of other people. We haven't really allowed for lifestyle inflation to creep in, and as a result, we save or invest a huge portion of what we earn. And this sort of segues into the second point I wanted to talk about, which is setting and forgetting all of our saving and investing. I talked to a lot of Turo hosts and small business owners who are unsure on how to go about paying themselves, and truthfully, this is a tough question to answer. When I first got started with Turo, I didn't pay myself anything from the business. When I did start paying myself, I just paid myself as needed. So if I knew that I was about to make a purchase or about to go grocery shopping, I would simply transfer money from my business account to my personal account, and it would be logged as like an owner's draw. Eventually, once I started to establish my business a bit more, I started doing every other week withdrawals, just like you would with like a traditional paycheck. It started off as a couple $100s per transfer or per pay period, and then it really grew from there. When my husband quit his job, we started off paying both of us every 2 weeks, and then we increased that amount slowly until it was to the point where we felt like it was a comfortable salary. This was all through owner's draw, not through a W-2, but it was tabulated correctly for tax reasons. And so when it came to paying ourselves, this was definitely a buildup, and it took some time until we could really figure it out. But what we've done pretty much since the moment that we stopped just transferring money as needed is we set all of our accounts to auto pay. We simply have automatic drafts that take money from our business accounts, deposit it into our personal ones, and then our accountant tabulates it to make sure that it's all accounted for tax reasons. Now, the exact way that you do this will depend on what type of business entity you have, so I do encourage you to talk to an accountant before you set up this auto pay situation. And there may actually be scenarios where you're not able to just simply transfer the funds and you have to be put on salary. But again, that is a case-by-case scenario. And today, we get paid by our businesses twice a month, and the day after the transfer is made, about 60% of it gets taken out and put into our additional accounts, which include a high-yield savings account for an emergency fund, a long-term investing account, a 401k for both myself and my husband, and a Roth IRA for each of us as well. All of this gets deposited without us thinking, and then we work with a financial advisor who invests it. This has created an environment where we never ever have to make the physical decision to pay ourselves or invest or save. It just is automatically done, and we've gotten into the habit where we know that we spend what we have after we invest, not the other way around. All of these factors that I've talked about in this video, I think are absolutely crucial to allowing for me to grow my wealth and to invest in a number of different assets. And again, to summarize, these points include growing a Turo fleet, really conscious of the debt that I'm taking out, diversifying my income while simultaneously holding a W-2 job, and then also prioritizing saving and investing, and keeping an eye on how much I'm paying myself and how much of that personal income I'm spending. I know that a lot of this feels very, very surface level, and in many ways it is, but I think what this proves is that at the end of the day, when it comes to growing your wealth, a lot of it does come down to these fundamental principles. And the good news is we don't really need to overthink it in order to do very, very well. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.